The notification sound from Bruce's phone pierced through the quiet of his computer repair shop at 2:47 a.m. He'd been hunched over a damaged motherboard for the past 3 hours, trying to salvage data from a client's crashed system, when the message from his 16-year-old son Tyler made his blood run cold. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Dad, I think I just broke into something I shouldn't have. They're coming. Get Jessica and meet me at the usual spot. Now. Bruce stared at the screen, his calloused fingers trembling slightly as he read the words again. Tyler wasn't prone to dramatics or pranks, especially not at this hour. The kid had been acting strange for weeks, spending even more time than usual locked in his room with multiple monitors glowing behind his closed door. Bruce had assumed it was typical teenage behavior, maybe some advanced coding project for his computer science class. He never imagined his son had somehow penetrated one of the most secure networks in the world. The shop's front door chimed as someone entered, and Bruce's heart nearly stopped. Through the dim lighting, he could see the silhouette of a tall man in a dark coat, moving with the calculated precision of someone accustomed to violence. Without thinking, Bruce grabbed the baseball bat he kept behind the counter and ducked low, his mind racing. How had they found him so quickly? And who was Jessica that Tyler had mentioned? Bruce Martinez had never planned on raising Tyler alone. 3 years ago, when his wife Elena died in a car accident, he'd been forced to navigate the impossible balance between grief and single parenthood, while keeping his small computer repair business afloat in downtown Austin. Tyler had always been brilliant with technology, showing an intuitive understanding of systems and code that far exceeded his age. What Bruce didn't realize was that his son's late-night coding sessions had evolved from harmless experimentation into something far more dangerous. The crisis began on a seemingly ordinary Tuesday morning, when Tyler stumbled into the kitchen, his usually sharp eyes bloodshot from another sleepless night. Bruce was preparing his standard breakfast of instant coffee, and whatever leftovers hadn't spoiled in their perpetually understocked refrigerator. The cramped apartment above the repair shop had become their sanctuary after Elena's death, a place where they could exist without the constant reminders of their loss that haunted their old house. Tyler had been unusually quiet during the past month, even by his introverted standards. Bruce attributed it to typical teenage angst combined with the approaching pressure of college applications. The boy was easily smart enough for any university, but their financial situation meant scholarships would be essential. Bruce worked 14-hour days fixing laptops and rebuilding desktop computers, but the steady stream of clients barely covered their basic expenses, let alone college tuition. What Bruce didn't know was that Tyler had discovered something during one of his routine explorations of various computer networks. It started innocently enough, with Tyler testing his skills against increasingly sophisticated security systems as a form of intellectual challenge. He'd never intended to cause harm or steal information, viewing it more like solving complex puzzles that happened to involve bypassing digital locks. But on that fateful Monday night, while attempting to trace the source of some suspicious network traffic he'd noticed at school, Tyler accidentally stumbled into a classified Pentagon database. What he found there changed everything. Hidden within layers of encrypted files were communications between foreign agents and someone within a major technology corporation, detailing plans to steal breakthrough artificial intelligence research that could revolutionize military defense systems. The target wasn't just any company. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. It was Chen Industries, owned by Robert Chen, one of Austin's most prominent tech entrepreneurs. And the inside information the spies were receiving suggested they had someone very close to Chen himself, feeding them classified details about government contracts worth billions of dollars. Tyler's hands had shaken as he realized the implications of what he'd discovered. This wasn't just corporate espionage. It was a matter of national security. Foreign agents were actively working to steal American military technology, and they were using someone within Chen Industries to do it. The most chilling part was a detailed timeline showing that their operation was entering its final phase, with plans to extract their asset and the stolen data within the next 48 hours. That's when Tyler made the connection that would change both his and his father's lives forever. Among the encrypted communications, he found references to a high-value target identified only as, quote, Package C. The metadata suggested this package wasn't information or technology, but a person. Someone the spies considered essential to their operation's success, someone they planned to extract along with the stolen research. As Tyler dug deeper into the files, cross-referencing the sparse details with public records and social media profiles, a horrifying picture emerged. Package C was Jessica Chen, Robert Chen's 17-year-old daughter, who attended Lincoln High School just 3 miles from Tyler's own school. She wasn't just a potential kidnapping victim. She was leverage. The spies planned to use her to ensure her father's continued cooperation in their theft of classified military technology. Tyler realized he was probably the only person outside the conspiracy who knew about the imminent threat to Jessica's safety. But he also knew that his methods of obtaining this information were highly illegal. Admitting to penetrating Pentagon security systems would likely result in federal charges, even if his intentions had been innocent. The weight of this knowledge settled on his shoulders like a physical burden as he stared at his computer screen, understanding that he held a stranger's life in his hands. The decision to reach out to his father at 2:47 a.m. hadn't been made lightly. Tyler knew Bruce would be working late as usual, and he also knew his father would believe him despite the incredible nature of his claims. Their relationship had deepened significantly since Elena's death, built on a foundation of mutual respect and Bruce's unwavering faith in his son's abilities. If Tyler said there was danger, Bruce would act first and ask questions later. Now, crouched behind his shop counter with a baseball bat in his hands, Bruce found himself thrust into a world he'd never imagined. The quiet life he'd built for himself and Tyler was about to be shattered by forces beyond their control, and somehow his teenage son had become the only thing standing between a group of international spies and their plans to steal American military secrets. The man in the dark coat turned out to be a late-night customer with a broken laptop screen, not an international assassin. Bruce felt foolish clutching his baseball bat as he helped the confused college student, but Tyler's cryptic message still burned in his mind. After the customer left, Bruce locked up the shop and drove through the empty Austin streets toward Zilker Park, where he and Tyler often met when they needed privacy away from their cramped apartment. He found his son sitting on a bench beneath the streetlights, 3 laptops open around him like some kind of high-tech command center. Tyler's fingers moved across multiple keyboards simultaneously, his eyes darting between screens filled with scrolling code and encrypted communications. Even in the dim lighting, Bruce could see the exhaustion etched across his son's face, the weight of knowledge that had clearly been crushing him for days. "Dad, I need you to listen to everything before you say anything," Tyler began, his voice hoarse from lack of sleep. "What I'm about to tell you sounds impossible, but I have proof of everything." Over the next hour, Tyler walked his father through the digital trail that had led him from a simple network anomaly at school to the heart of an international espionage operation. He showed Bruce the encrypted files, the communication patterns between foreign agents, and the timeline that revealed Jessica Chen was in immediate danger. Bruce stared at the evidence displayed across the laptop screens, his mind struggling to process the magnitude of what his son had uncovered. The technical details were beyond his understanding, but the implications were crystal clear. Tyler had accidentally stumbled into something that could get them both killed, and somewhere across town, a teenage girl was walking around completely unaware that her life hung in the balance. "We have to call the FBI," Bruce said finally, but Tyler shook his head grimly. "I tried that. I created an anonymous tip through their online system, but look at this." Tyler pulled up a series of network logs that showed someone had traced his submission back to its source within hours. "They have people inside law enforcement, Dad. The moment I reported it, someone started hunting for whoever sent the tip." The realization that they were truly alone in this fight settled over Bruce like a cold fog. His instinct was to protect Tyler by turning this problem over to the authorities, but his son had just proven that approach would likely get them both killed. They were civilians thrust into a world of professional killers and international conspiracies, armed with nothing but Tyler's technical skills and Bruce's determination to keep his son safe. "Show me everything you know about Jessica Chen," Bruce said, accepting that their lives had just taken an irreversible turn toward danger. Tyler pulled up social media profiles, school records, and public information about the Chen family. Jessica was a senior at Lincoln High School, captain of the debate team, and apparently unaware that her father's business dealings had made her a target for foreign agents. More troubling was Tyler's analysis of her daily routine. The spies had been watching Jessica for weeks, documenting her schedule with military precision. They knew she stayed late for debate practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that she drove herself to school in a silver Honda Civic, and that she often stopped at a coffee shop near campus between classes. The level of surveillance suggested they were preparing for a carefully orchestrated kidnapping. "We have maybe 18 hours before they move," Tyler explained, pointing to timestamps in the intercepted communications. Their extraction plan shows they want to grab her tomorrow afternoon somewhere between the school and that coffee shop she frequents. Once they have her, they'll use her as leverage to force her father to hand over the AI research along with all the classified military contracts. Bruce studied his son's face in the glow of the laptop screens, seeing a maturity there that hadn't existed just weeks ago. Tyler had been forced to grow up fast after his mother's death. But this was different. This was the kind of responsibility that could break an adult, let alone a 16-year-old boy who should have been worried about algebra tests and basketball tryouts. "What's your plan?" Bruce asked, though part of him dreaded the answer. Tyler's expression grew even more serious as he opened another encrypted file. "I've been monitoring their communications in real time. They're using a sophisticated network that routes through servers in 6 different countries, but I found a way to intercept their messages without them knowing." Tyler showed his father a live feed of text exchanges between the operatives. The casual way they discussed kidnapping and murder made Bruce's stomach turn, but it also revealed crucial information about their methods and timeline. The team consisted of 4 professionals led by someone identified only as Victor, and they had been planning this operation for months. "Here's what we're going to do," Tyler continued, his voice gaining confidence as he outlined his strategy. "Tomorrow morning, I'm going to Lincoln High School to warn Jessica directly. I'll show her the evidence and convince her to come with us somewhere safe until we can figure out how to expose this whole operation without getting ourselves killed in the process." Bruce wanted to object, to find some way to keep Tyler out of direct contact with the target of international killers, but he realized his son was probably right. Jessica wouldn't believe a warning from a stranger, and involving her father might trigger the very scenario the spies were hoping to exploit. Tyler, being close to her age and able to demonstrate his technical knowledge, had the best chance of convincing her to take the threat seriously. "Where exactly do you plan to take her?" Bruce asked, already knowing he wouldn't like the answer. Tyler smiled for the first time that night, an expression that reminded Bruce of Elena's stubborn determination when she'd set her mind to something. "Remember Mom's cabin up in the hill country? The one we haven't been to since the funeral?" The cabin had been Elena's childhood retreat, a small 2-bedroom structure on 20 acres of isolated land about 2 hours northwest of Austin. After her death, Bruce hadn't been able to bring himself to visit the place, let alone sell it. The property had no internet connection, no cell towers nearby, and only one access road that could be easily monitored. For their purposes, it was perfect. "The spies are using digital surveillance and urban tracking methods," Tyler explained. "They'll expect us to stay in the city where they can use traffic cameras, cell towers, and facial recognition systems to hunt us down. The cabin is completely off their grid. We can keep Jessica safe there while I work on exposing their operation from a secure location." Bruce felt a mixture of pride and terror as he listened to his son's plan. Tyler had thought through contingencies that wouldn't have occurred to most adults, but he was also proposing to put himself directly in the path of professional killers. The weight of Elena's loss suddenly felt crushing again, the thought of losing Tyler too almost unbearable to contemplate. "What if they catch you at the school?" Bruce asked quietly. Tyler's fingers moved across his keyboards, pulling up floor plans and security camera locations for Lincoln High School. "I've already hacked their system. I know every entrance, every camera angle, and every blind spot. I can get to Jessica during her lunch period when she always sits alone in the library, in and out without anyone noticing." The casual way Tyler discussed infiltrating a school's security system reminded Bruce just how far his son's skills had evolved. What had started as innocent curiosity about computers had developed into capabilities that rivaled professional hackers. Under different circumstances, Bruce might have been concerned about Tyler's activities. Now, those same skills might be the only thing standing between Jessica Chen and a group of international killers. "I'm coming with you," Bruce declared, but Tyler shook his head immediately. Dad, you'll stand out too much. A 40-year-old man wandering around a high school will attract attention we can't afford. But I need you to prepare the cabin. Stock it with supplies, check the generator, make sure we can survive there for at least a week if necessary. The division of responsibilities made sense, even if Bruce hated the idea of sending his son into potential danger alone. Tyler was right that he would be less conspicuous moving through the school environment, and someone needed to ensure their safe house was ready. Still, the thought of Tyler approaching Jessica Chen while international spies watched her every move filled Bruce with a dread he hadn't experienced since Elena's accident. As dawn approached, they packed up Tyler's mobile command center and returned to the apartment above the repair shop. Bruce watched his son methodically prepare for what might be the most dangerous day of their lives, checking and rechecking his equipment with the same careful attention Elena used to give her lesson plans. The resemblance between them was so strong in that moment that Bruce had to look away. Tyler seemed to sense his father's emotional struggle. Mom would have done the same thing, he said quietly, not looking up from his preparations. She always said that when you have the power to help someone, you have the responsibility to use it. I have the power to save Jessica Chen. I can't just pretend I don't know what's going to happen to her. The simple moral clarity in Tyler's statement cut through all of Bruce's fears and doubts. His son was right, of course. Elena would have charged headfirst into this situation without hesitation, driven by the same sense of justice that had made her such an exceptional teacher. Tyler had inherited more than just her stubborn streak. He'd inherited her unwavering commitment to doing what was right, regardless of personal cost. As Bruce prepared to leave for the cabin, Tyler handed him a secure satellite phone and a small device that looked like a modified router. This will give us encrypted communication even without cell towers, Tyler explained. If something goes wrong at the school, I'll contact you immediately. If you don't hear from me by 3 p.m., assume the worst and get as far away from Austin as possible. The finality in Tyler's voice made Bruce's chest tighten, but he forced himself to nod and accept the equipment. They were past the point of backing down now, committed to a course of action that would either save Jessica Chen's life or destroy their own. As he drove toward the hill country cabin, Bruce found himself praying to Elena's memory, asking her to watch over their son during the most dangerous day of his young life. Tyler's hands trembled slightly as he approached Jessica Chen in the Lincoln High School library. She sat alone at a corner table, just as his surveillance had predicted, surrounded by advanced calculus textbooks and debate team research. Her long black hair fell like a curtain around her face as she concentrated on her work, completely unaware that foreign agents had been documenting her every movement for weeks. "Jessica Chen?" Tyler asked quietly, sliding into the chair across from her. She looked up with mild annoyance, clearly not recognizing him despite attending the same school. "I'm Tyler Martinez. I know this sounds crazy, but your life is in immediate danger, and I need you to come with me right now." Jessica's expression shifted from annoyance to concern as she studied Tyler's exhausted face and bloodshot eyes. Something in his demeanor convinced her this wasn't a typical teenage prank or pickup attempt. "What are you talking about?" she whispered, glancing around the nearly empty library. Tyler opened his laptop and angled the screen toward her, displaying the encrypted communications he'd intercepted. "Your father's company is being targeted by international spies. They plan to kidnap you this afternoon to force him to hand over classified AI research. I have proof of everything, but we need to leave immediately." As Jessica read the translated messages detailing her daily routine and the planned extraction, her face went pale. The level of detail was impossible to fake, down to the specific brand of coffee she ordered and the exact time she left each class. "This is real," she breathed, her voice barely audible. "Oh my God, this is actually real. I've been monitoring their communications for 3 days," Tyler explained urgently. "They have a 4-person team led by someone called Victor, and they're moving today. My dad is waiting with a secure location where we can keep you safe until we figure out how to expose this operation." Jessica's analytical mind, honed by years of debate team competition, quickly processed the implications. "Why haven't you contacted the FBI or my father's security team?" Tyler's expression darkened as he showed her additional evidence. They have people inside law enforcement. When I tried to report this anonymously, someone traced it back to me within hours. Your father's security is probably compromised too. The library's peaceful atmosphere felt surreal as they discussed international espionage and kidnapping plots in hushed tones. Jessica packed her belongings with mechanical precision, her hands steady despite the fear in her eyes. "How do I know you're not one of them?" she asked. A reasonable question under the circumstances. Tyler had anticipated this doubt. He pulled up his school records, social media profiles, and even his mother's obituary to establish his identity and local connections. "I'm just a kid who accidentally hacked into something I shouldn't have. I could have ignored this and protected myself, but I couldn't let them hurt you." As they prepared to leave the library, Tyler's secure phone buzzed with an urgent message from Bruce. The cabin was ready, but there had been suspicious activity on the access road. Someone was already looking for them, which meant the spies had somehow detected Tyler's contact with Jessica faster than expected. "We need to go now," Tyler said, his voice tight with controlled panic. They moved through the school's corridors, using routes Tyler had memorized from the security camera system, avoiding the main hallways where facial recognition software might identify them. Jessica followed his lead, her debate team training, helping her maintain composure under pressure. They had almost reached Tyler's car in the student parking lot when Jessica spotted the black sedan parked near the school entrance. Two men in dark suits sat inside, their attention focused on the building's exits. "Those aren't school security," she whispered, recognizing the predatory alertness of professional operatives. Tyler cursed under his breath as he realized their escape route was compromised. The spies had moved faster than his intelligence suggested, positioning themselves to intercept Jessica during her normal departure time. His carefully planned extraction was falling apart before it had truly begun. "There's a service entrance near the gymnasium," Tyler said, changing direction toward the back of the school. "My car is in the opposite parking lot, but we'll have to move fast once we're outside." They navigated through maintenance corridors and empty classrooms, Jessica's athletic conditioning helping her keep pace despite the stress. As they reached the service door, Tyler's phone exploded with warnings from his monitoring systems. The spies' communications had suddenly increased dramatically, with multiple teams receiving deployment orders. Victor's voice appeared in a translated audio file, speaking with the cold efficiency of a professional killer giving final instructions. "They know we're together," Tyler realized with growing horror. "Somehow they detected our contact, and now they're switching to emergency extraction protocols." The implications hit both teenagers simultaneously. This was no longer a careful surveillance operation that could be avoided through stealth. The spies were now actively hunting them with the full resources of a professional intelligence network. Tyler's hands shook as he tried to contact his father, but the secure connection was being jammed by sophisticated electronic warfare equipment. The spies weren't just watching anymore. They were actively interfering with communications and probably surrounding the school. Jessica and Tyler were trapped inside Lincoln High School, with professional killers closing in from multiple directions. "My father's private security," Jessica said desperately. "They have training for situations like this." But Tyler shook his head, showing her intercepted messages that revealed the extent of the conspiracy. "Victor's team has been inside your father's organization for months. They know exactly how his security operates, and probably have people positioned to intercept any call you make." The sound of footsteps in the corridor behind them made both teenagers freeze. Heavy boots moved with military precision, searching room by room in a pattern that would eventually lead to their location. Tyler grabbed Jessica's hand and pulled her toward the gymnasium, hoping to reach the far exit before the search teams converged on their position. As they ran through the empty hallways, Jessica's mind raced through everything she knew about her father's business dealings. The classified AI research Tyler had mentioned was part of a joint military development project worth hundreds of millions of dollars. If foreign agents gained access to that technology, it could shift the balance of power in international conflicts for decades to come. "Why me?" she gasped as they sprinted toward their escape route. "Why not just steal the research directly?" Tyler's expression was grim as he explained what he'd learned from the intercepted communications. "Because your father is the only person with complete access to all the project components. They need him to voluntarily hand over everything, and threatening your life is the only leverage that will make him cooperate." The gymnasium doors were locked, but Tyler produced a small electronic device that bypassed the security system within seconds. His hacking skills extended far beyond computers into physical security systems, a talent that had apparently developed alongside his digital expertise. They burst through the doors and ran across the empty basketball court toward the far exit. Behind them, shouts echoed through the school corridors as the search teams discovered their route. Professional voices coordinated movements in what sounded like military radio protocol, confirming Tyler's worst fears about the caliber of operatives they were facing. These weren't common criminals or corporate spies. They were elite agents with international intelligence training. Tyler's car was exactly where he'd left it, but as they approached the vehicle, Jessica spotted another black sedan positioning itself to block the parking lot exit. They've surrounded the entire school, she realized with growing despair. There's no way out. But Tyler had one more card to play, a contingency he'd hoped wouldn't be necessary. His fingers flew across his phone screen, initiating a program he'd developed months earlier as an intellectual exercise. Within seconds, every fire alarm in Lincoln High School began blaring simultaneously, while the automated sprinkler systems activated throughout the building. "Emergency services will respond within minutes," Tyler shouted over the chaos. The Spies can't operate openly with firefighters and police swarming the area. It was a desperate gambit that would expose them to law enforcement, but it was better than being captured by international killers. As sirens wailed in the distance and confused students began evacuating the building, Tyler and Jessica ran toward the approaching emergency vehicles. They would have to trust that the responding officers weren't part of the conspiracy and hope that Bruce was already moving toward the backup extraction point they'd agreed upon. The confrontation Tyler had tried to avoid was now inevitable, with professional spies, local law enforcement, and two terrified teenagers about to collide in the parking lot of Lincoln High School. The chaos Tyler had unleashed at Lincoln High School worked better than he dared hope. Fire trucks, ambulances, and police cars swarmed the campus within minutes, forcing Victor's team to retreat rather than risk exposure during an active emergency response. In the confusion of evacuating students and responding personnel, Tyler and Jessica managed to slip away from the school grounds and reach Bruce's predetermined backup location at a truck stop 15 miles outside Austin. Bruce was waiting in his repair van, his face etched with worry that transformed to relief when he saw Tyler emerge from Jessica's Honda Civic. The reunion was brief but intense, a father's embrace that conveyed weeks of suppressed fear in a few seconds. Jessica watched the interaction with a mixture of longing and sadness, realizing she couldn't remember the last time her own father had shown such unguarded emotion. "We can't go to the cabin," Bruce announced grimly as they huddled in the back of his van. "I spotted surveillance drones over the property this morning. They found it somehow." Tyler's face paled as he realized the implications. The Spies' resources were far more extensive than he'd calculated, including aerial reconnaissance capabilities that could track them across hundreds of square miles of rural Texas. "How is that possible?" Jessica asked, her voice tight with controlled panic. Tyler said they were using digital surveillance methods. Bruce showed them photographs he'd taken with a telephoto lens, clearly depicting military-grade drones circling the cabin property. "These aren't criminals or corporate spies," he said quietly. "This is a state-sponsored intelligence operation with unlimited resources." The weight of that realization settled over all three of them like a suffocating blanket. They weren't just hiding from a few rogue agents. They were being hunted by professionals with access to satellite imagery, signal intelligence, and probably real-time tracking capabilities that made their amateur countermeasures seem pathetically inadequate. Tyler's hand shook as he powered up his laptops in the cramped confines of the van. His monitoring systems showed a massive escalation in the Spies' communications network, with new operatives being deployed from Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. The scope of the operation was expanding exponentially, transforming from a targeted kidnapping into a manhunt that would blanket the entire Central Texas region. "They're bringing in everything," Tyler whispered, his voice cracking with the strain of the past 24 hours. "Helicopter teams, ground units, electronic warfare specialists. It's like they're preparing to invade a small country." Jessica leaned over his shoulder to read the translated intercepts, her face growing more ashen with each new deployment order. Bruce made a decision that surprised both teenagers. "We're splitting up," he announced with quiet finality. "They're tracking us as a group, but if we separate, it might confuse their search patterns long enough for Tyler to find a way to expose this operation." The suggestion horrified both kids, who had found unexpected strength in their alliance against overwhelming odds. "Dad, no," Tyler protested immediately. "We're stronger together. I need Jessica's help with the technical analysis, and you're the only one who knows how to stay hidden in situations like this." But Bruce had already thought through the tactical realities of their situation. 3 people traveling together left a larger signature for surveillance systems to detect, and their combined absence would eventually trigger massive search efforts from both the spies and legitimate authorities. "Jessica needs to disappear completely," Bruce explained with painful logic. "Her father is probably being watched around the clock now, and any attempt to contact him will lead them straight to us. Tyler, you're the only one who can prove this conspiracy exists, but you need to work from a location they can't possibly predict or monitor." The plan Bruce outlined was brutally simple in its desperation. Jessica would take on a completely new identity and relocate to a city where she had no previous connections, staying hidden until Tyler could gather enough evidence to safely expose the entire operation. Tyler would continue his digital investigation from an unexpected location where his technical skills could operate without interference. "What about you?" Jessica asked quietly, sensing there was something Bruce wasn't telling them. His expression remained carefully neutral, but Tyler caught the subtle tension in his father's posture that indicated a dangerous decision had already been made. "Someone needs to draw their attention away from both of you," Bruce said simply. "I'm going to let them find me." The van fell silent except for the hum of Tyler's equipment and the distant sound of highway traffic. Bruce was proposing to sacrifice himself as a decoy, gambling that the spies would waste time and resources interrogating him instead of continuing their search for Jessica and Tyler. It was the kind of selfless decision that Elena would have made, and Tyler recognized his mother's moral courage and his father's quiet determination. "That's suicide," Tyler said, flatly. "Victor's team doesn't just ask questions politely. If they capture you, they'll torture you for information about where Jessica and I are hiding." Bruce nodded calmly, as if discussing routine repair work instead of his probable death. "That's why you both need to be somewhere I genuinely don't know about. I can't reveal what I don't know." Jessica found herself crying for the first time since this nightmare began, overwhelmed by the casual way this family was preparing to sacrifice everything to protect a stranger. Her own father, despite his obvious love for her, had never demonstrated the kind of instinctive protectiveness that Bruce showed toward his son and, by extension, toward her. "There has to be another way," she insisted. But Tyler was already nodding slowly as he processed the tactical logic of his father's plan. The separation would accomplish multiple objectives simultaneously, dividing the spies' attention while protecting their most valuable assets. Tyler's technical expertise and Jessica's detailed knowledge of her father's business operations were both essential to exposing the conspiracy. Bruce produced a bundle of cash, fake identification documents, and prepaid credit cards from a hidden compartment in his van. "I've been preparing for something like this since your mother died," he explained to Tyler's surprised expression. "Not international spies specifically, but the possibility that we might need to disappear quickly if my past work in private security ever came back to haunt us." The revelation that Bruce had maintained escape protocols for years added another layer of complexity to Tyler's understanding of his father. The quiet computer repair shop owner had hidden depths that included contingency planning for scenarios most people couldn't imagine. Lena's death had apparently triggered not just grief, but a determination to protect Tyler from any future threats that might emerge from Bruce's former career. Tyler accepted the documents and money with hands that had stopped shaking, his analytical mind already calculating how to use these resources effectively. "Where will you go?" he asked his father, though part of him didn't want to know the answer. Bruce's smile was sad, but genuinely warm, the expression of a man at peace with his choices. "I'm going home," Bruce said simply, "back to the apartment above the shop. When they come for me, I'll be exactly where they expect to find me, but you two will be long gone." The apartment held too many memories of Elena to serve as an effective hiding place, but it would provide the perfect location for Bruce to stage his capture in a way that seemed natural rather than suspicious. Jessica realized she was witnessing something extraordinary in the relationship between Tyler and his father. Despite facing probable death, Bruce's primary concern remained his son's safety and future. Tyler, despite his youth, understood and accepted the necessity of his father's sacrifice without childish protests or emotional breakdowns. They had both been shaped by Elena's loss into people capable of making impossible choices, with clear-eyed determination. The farewell between father and son was brief but profound, conveying years of mutual respect and love in a few simple words. "Make me proud," Bruce said, embracing Tyler one final time. "Expose these bastards and get Jessica home safely." Tyler nodded, his throat too tight for speech, understanding that this might be the last conversation he would ever have with his father. As Bruce drove away toward Austin and his probable capture, Tyler and Jessica sat in the abandoned parking lot of a closed gas station, suddenly feeling very young and very alone. The weight of responsibility for exposing an international conspiracy now rested entirely on their shoulders, while somewhere behind them, Tyler's father was driving toward what he believed would be his death. Tyler's equipment showed Victor's teams beginning to converge on Austin, their communications indicating they had detected some kind of signal or movement that suggested their targets were returning to the city. Bruce's sacrifice was already working, drawing the hunters away from the actual location where Tyler and Jessica now planned their next moves. "Where do we go now?" Jessica asked quietly, staring at the fake identity documents Bruce had provided for her. The name Sarah Williams stared back at her from a driver's license that looked completely authentic, representing a new existence that would erase Jessica Chen until this nightmare ended. Tyler was silent for a long moment, his mind processing possibilities and calculating risks with the same methodical approach he applied to complex coding problems. "I know a place," he said finally, his voice carrying a new note of maturity that spoke to how much he had changed in the past 48 hours. "Somewhere they'll never think to look for a teenage hacker." As they prepared to separate, possibly forever, both teenagers understood that their childhood had ended the moment Tyler discovered those encrypted files. They were no longer kids playing at being heroes. They were the only people capable of preventing an international incident that could compromise American national security for generations. The weight of that responsibility was crushing, but neither of them had any choice but to carry it forward into an uncertain future, where failure would mean not just their own deaths, but the success of an operation that would reshape the global balance of power. Tyler found his perfect hiding spot in the most unlikely location imaginable, the Austin Public Library's computer center. Surrounded by elderly patrons learning email and students working on homework assignments, he became invisible in plain sight. The library's robust internet connection and multiple backup power systems provided everything he needed to wage digital warfare against Victor's network. For 3 weeks, Tyler worked 18-hour days from a corner workstation, systematically dismantling the spy operation from the inside. He traced financial transactions, identified sleeper agents, and gathered irrefutable evidence of the conspiracy. Meanwhile, Jessica had vanished completely into her new identity in Oklahoma City, working at a bookstore while monitoring news reports for any sign that Tyler had succeeded. The breakthrough came when Tyler discovered Victor's fatal flaw: overconfidence. The spy network had grown so comfortable operating within American systems that they'd become sloppy with their operational security. Tyler exploited this weakness to plant evidence that made it appear Victor's team was actually working for Chinese intelligence, triggering a massive counterintelligence investigation by multiple federal agencies. Bruce's sacrifice had worked exactly as planned. Victor's team captured him at the repair shop, but his genuine ignorance about Tyler and Jessica's whereabouts frustrated their interrogation efforts. While they wasted time trying to break a man who truly knew nothing useful, Tyler systematically destroyed their entire operation from his library workstation. The resolution came not through violence or dramatic confrontations, but through the quiet persistence of a teenage genius who understood that information was the ultimate weapon. Tyler's evidence package, carefully compiled and anonymously delivered to 6 different news organizations simultaneously, exposed the spy ring in excruciating detail. Within hours, arrests were being made across 3 states. Robert Chen held an emotional reunion with his daughter at FBI headquarters in Dallas, while Bruce was released from Victor's custody during a coordinated raid that netted the entire spy network. The AI research remained secure, and the attempted theft became a classified footnote in intelligence files. 6 months later, Tyler received a full scholarship to MIT's cybersecurity program, while Jessica enrolled at Stanford with plans to study international relations. Bruce expanded his repair shop into a consulting business specializing in digital security for small businesses, finally finding financial stability that had eluded him since Elena's death. The three of them still met occasionally at the restored cabin by the lake, sharing quiet meals and remembering the week that changed all their lives. Tyler never hacked another government system, but his reputation in cybersecurity circles grew from the carefully leaked details of his role in stopping the spy ring. Victor received a 25-year sentence in federal prison, while his network's collapse sent shockwaves through several hostile intelligence services. The teenager who had accidentally stumbled into their operation had single-handedly dismantled years of careful planning with nothing but a laptop and unshakable determination to protect an innocent girl. Jessica and Tyler maintained their friendship through college, bonded by shared trauma and mutual respect. Bruce found peace knowing that Elena would have been proud of how their son had channeled his gifts toward protecting others, turning a moment of accidental discovery into a triumph of courage over professional evil. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.